All right, welcome back to the Elias Macko Show. Third hour of the program. We begin this third hour with Senator Leo Housakos, conservative Senator Leo Housakos, and get the view from what's happening in conservative land when it comes to this federal election campaign. Senator Housakos, welcome back to the program.
Thanks for having me on, Elias.
It is. Can I go with Leo for the rest of the segment? Is that okay?
Sure, absolutely.
So Leo, it's not lost on me that you're joining me at this hour. It's not a candidate for the Conservative Party on the island of Montreal or somewhere else in Quebec. And I have to say, I haven't seen any conservative signs. I do know Neil Drapkin's running in NDG. I heard of that. I know Tanya Toledano's running somewhere in Westmount. I only know that because she used to do segments on the morning show I used to be on, the TV morning show. That's the only reason I even know about that thing. It seems like in Montreal, I don't see like the conservative campaign has even started. And again, I'm speaking to you. I'm not speaking to a candidate for in this election. What's going on right now with especially the Montreal side of things on the conservative campaign?
Well, I think we're omnipresent. We have a full slate of candidates right now in every riding. And if you walk out in every single riding, signs are up. Candidates are up. We got Neil Oberman in Mont Royal, who's been our candidate now for well over a year. And you're right about Tanya Toledano in the West Island. And, of course, Neil Drapkin, who's carrying the torch for us in NDG Westmount. And, of course, he was just named recently. So I think in Montreal, uncharacteristically of the Conservative Party, we got our full slate of candidates. We got them in early, and they're on the ground working hard.
Well, again, it'd be great to have one of them on the show, right? So that's the thing. I think we tried hard to get one of the candidates on today, and I'm happy I'm talking to you because you are such a good talker, and I think you can give the conservative perspective really well, but I'd love to hear from a candidate. So that's just a little food for thought there on the conservative side of things.
It's a long campaign. You'll be hearing from them, seeing them, and so are all the constituents.
Okay, so let's tackle that because you're right. It's a long campaign. Not even done with 1 week, right? We're almost there, but not even a week done. How do you think it's going for conservative leader Pierre Poilievre? How do you think he's doing on the campaign trail?
I think he's doing great. I think he's getting his message out. He's hammering it hard day in, day out. Like I said, the campaign has many peaks and valleys, and it's a long process. And we're just really in the early stages of the first period. And I think Mr. Poilievre is doing great, and he's just warming up.
Omnipresent so far in this election campaign is south of the border, right? Donald Trump, threat of tariffs. The tariffs are put into effect. We're awaiting news. We have multiple sources now. CTV News can confirm that Mark Carney will speak to Donald Trump today. So let me get what should Canadians know? What should our listeners know about the conservative strategy and how the conservatives would handle Donald Trump, the threat of tariffs, and that relationship?
Well, first of all, we have to make sure Canadians don't allow the Liberal government to put the wool over their eyes. We have to remind them that the lost Liberal decade is what has made Canada vulnerable to Donald Trump and other threats in the first place. This is the same government over the last decade that gave us debts, gave us taxes, gave us the capital gains, gave us the carbon tax, gave us the crazy environmental policies like Bill C-69, C-48 that has handcuffed our country from developing our resources. And that is the reason why Donald Trump is pouncing on us and taking advantage of the fact that we haven't been ready for this economic war. And it's all on this Liberal government. And the real message we want to get across to Canadians is don't be fooled by Minister Champagne, Minister Joly, Minister Freeland, Minister Guilbeault. This is the same Liberal government of the lost Liberal decade. The only thing that has changed is they're all in the backseat of the Uber. They changed the Uber driver, but they're still the ones that are driving the direction. And the Canadian public should remember that if we re-elect this government on April 29th, they're going to give us the same old, which they've given us over the last decade.
You mentioned lost, quote-unquote, the lost decade, and you also mentioned François-Philippe Champagne. He was on this show an hour ago. I asked him about Canada's GDP per capita and the difference between Canada and the U.S. over the last decade. Have a listen to what he said. I think the concern is if in the last 10 years, our GDP per capita had grown 20% like the U.S., we'd be in a much stronger position. And I think people are wondering, why should they trust a fourth term of a Liberal government if the record from the last year showed quite a significant disparity between Canada and the US?
I would say that there's a clear change in the world, and that's our moment. I hope it's not only a moment, but it's a movement to suggest that, like I said, We have lived since 1945, I would say, and successive government, in all fairness. It's not just like the last government, but we've been in a place where naturally people were exporting, like in the United States. There's issues about productivity.
Yeah.
There was issue about how we're going to organize our nation. And now I say, listen, if you look at the world today, we are a big magnet for talent. We have huge industry. We produce planes, we produce cars, we produce ships. We have critical minerals that you need from anything from computer to semiconductors. We have abundant renewable energy, and we're the only G7 country with a free trade agreement with all the other G7 nations. So the fundamentals are right.
So what do you say to that?
I don't know what planet Mr. Champagne is living on, because over the last few years we've seen hundreds of billions of dollars of Canadian capital flowing to the United States. We've seen thousands of brain drain people, talented people leaving for the United States, and they've left because of the policies of this Liberal government, the destructive policies of high taxes, high debt, a lot of regulation, handcuffing our natural resource industry, and we're paying the price for it. Now, all of a sudden, they claim they are the agent of change. But that's not the reality. The reality is the only agent of change is Pierre Poilievre, because for 20 years, he's been fighting against debt. He's been fighting against larger government. He's been fighting against taxes. He didn't wake up on the eve of the election and say, we got to get rid of the capital gains tax. We got to get rid of the carbon tax. On the eve of an election, this is the Liberal government who put this into place, who supported it with votes from people like Minister Champagne. And now all of a sudden they're hiding in the backseat of the Uber while they've changed the Uber driver in the front. And Mark Carney is the agent of change. Canadians should not fall for that.
We're with Conservative Senator Leo Housakos. On that point, we have seen the polling, right? The polling certainly suggests a shift that has gone towards the Liberals since Mark Carney took over the Liberal Party. What's your reaction? Are you looking at the polls?
I don't look at the polls when we're flying high. I don't look at the polls when we're flying low. The only poll that matters is on April the 28th. All I know is that Pierre Poilievre has a proven track record of saying what he believes, and he believes in what he says. And he has a track record when he says, I'm going to get rid of the carbon taxes because he believes it. When I'm going to lower capital gains is because he believes it. When he talks about helping young Canadians who are we have a generation of young Canadians living in the basement of their parents' homes because they can't afford to buy a home. And the message that has to resonate and has to get out to Canadians 55 and older who seem to be skeptical about supporting Pierre Poilievre. We have an inherent right to leave this great country that we've inherited from our parents in better shape to our children and grandchildren. And the question we have to ask ourselves, because I fall into that category of 55 and up, is this the case after this lost decade of Liberal government? And do we want to continue down this path? I don't believe we do.
Let me ask you about the announcements made today. Now, Pierre Poilievre announcing today, but I think he announced something very similar about a month ago. The promise here to impose mandatory life sentences on anyone involved in trafficking, production, distribution of over 40 milligrams of fentanyl. Talk to me about the tough on crime component. We have heard Pierre Poilievre talk tough on crime, and how much of a key is it for the Conservative campaign to take a tougher stance on crime?
Look, our economy has gone to hell in a handbasket. One of the residual effects of that is we've seen crime exploding in this country, fentanyl use exploding. The end result of that is 50,000 Canadians died because of fentanyl use. And let's remember, Prime Minister Carney just a few weeks ago said there's no fentanyl problem in Canada. It's exaggerated. 50,000 Canadians losing their life to fentanyl use is not exaggerated. It is a crisis. And this catch and release reflex of this Liberal government of being soft on crime over this last decade has led to this chaos in our streets.
Should we expect more promises on the tough crime front over the course of the next 4 weeks?
Look, we all remember when it comes to being tough on crime, the track record that the Stephen Harper government had. Since 2015, we've had a policy of allowing crack houses, of allowing for the use of legalized drug centers across the country. We had this failed Liberal exercise in Vancouver that has been a social disaster, an economic disaster. That's touched now a whole generation of Canadians. In addition to not being able to buy houses, Mr. Trudeau and the Liberal government, and now Mr. Carney, who's continuing that government, wants a generation completely hooked on crack.
Those are tough words there. I don't know if he wants a whole generation hooked on crack. Who wants that?
No, but we have a situation right now where we got to take drastic steps. We have had a decade of a government that has not been responsible, not fiscally, not socially, not when it comes to dealing with crime. And like I said, we're on the eve right now of a choice that we need to make. Do we want more of the last 10 years, or do we want to change course? And if we want to deal with Donald Trump and really cut him at his knees and really chop him at his ankles and really fight for the Canada that we love, we need to change course. We need to change course on all these policies, and we need to have a government that does that with authority and with conviction, not a consensus party like this Liberal Party that tries to run government based on polls and navel gazing.
Senator Housakos, Leo, thanks for coming on today.
Thank you so much.
Conservative Senator Leo Housakos right there.